Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to St Mary's Vicarage on this Tuesday, the 29th of September. And today is a very special feast day in the church. It's the feast day of Michael and All Angels, the 29th of September. And it's a very special day for me, this day, because it was 26 years ago today that I started theological college in Lincoln, and it had been a bit of a journey to get there that I wasn't quite sure whether was ever really going to happen, as I'd sort of begun the process of looking to train for ministry when I just turned 20. And it wasn't a particularly easy journey for all sorts of reasons. I hadn't had a particularly academic background in the past, and I hadn't gone to university. I trained at art college as a photographer. And being dyslexic, people weren't sure whether that would be possible or not. Anyhow, after doing Open University foundation courses and all sorts of things, and going through the Church of England selection process, I finally got through. And ironically, my first choice of theological college was Salisbury Theological College, just down the road from here. But a few weeks after, a few weeks before my selection process for the Church of England, they announced that Salisbury Theological College was going to close. And they suggested if I liked Salisbury, I should have a look at Lincoln. So Kate then, who I was engaged to, we shot up to Lincoln and had a look and fell in love with the place. And Lincoln was where it was going to be. And we got married in the March of that year, 1994. And then with the help of my best man in September, last week in September, we hired a truck and moved the small amount of worldly possessions we had then all the way up to Lincoln. And we lived in a wonderful house. It was our sort of first married house, number 3 Wordsworth Street, which if you've ever been to the top of Steep Hill in Lincoln, is right at the top. It's across the road from what was the Theological College. And on one side of the house was the castle, Lincoln Castle, and on the other side, the very impressive cathedral. And the 29th of September marked the very first day of term, St Michael and All Angels. And we went into the beautiful chapel that they had at Lincoln Theological College. It was a wonderful little chapel. And we had a special service to mark the beginning of term and the new academic year, and to welcome the new students. And it was a mixture of terrifying and awe-inspiring. I remember sitting there through the service and sort of really felt that I had arrived, that the journey so far with its difficulties had been worth it, and was really pleased to be there. But underneath that, there was also a huge mixture of fear and trepidation as to whether or not I'd manage with the course and the training and such like. Anyhow, as you know, I did, because here I am. But St Michael's and All Angels always reminds me of Lincoln and our first year there, because sadly we were only at the college for about 4 weeks into term. And the Church of England, in its usual wisdom, was doing a review of theological colleges. It had already shut several, including Salisbury. And on one evening, we were all in the dining room, and Bill Jacob, who was the principal of the theological college, stood up, and very unusually, because the meals were never sort of interrupted in any way, asked everybody to be quiet, and very somberly announced that the Church of England had decided that at the end of that academic year, Lincoln Theological College would close. As you can imagine, there was a lot of shock and worry and such like. But we had learnt from what had happened to some of the other theological colleges, including Salisbury, and what a negative experience it had been for all of them going through closure. And within within a week, we decided that we were not going to let that be the way for us. And we all decided, the entire student body, that this final year of Lincoln would be the best year the college had ever had. And indeed it was. I have to say, the buoyancy and the upbeatness of us as a student body, even while we were busy looking for new colleges that we would have to go to a year later, they moved me and 8 others to Westcott House in Cambridge, was a really, really positive year. And eventually they sent a couple of cronies from the Church of England hierarchy and what was then the Advisory Board of Ministry, ABAM, to come and see us all and placate us for what had happened. And they were really quite bowled over by our reaction. First, they received the immense anger that had been generated by a decision that had had little consultation at all. Lincoln was due to potentially move to Sheffield, and we were all told that that would happen probably in 2 or 3 years' time, to form a cohort with where the Church Army trains. So we were sort of prepared for that, but this decision was taken with no consultation at all. So they were very, very surprised at the anger that they received. And then they were even more surprised when we said to them that how we were going to cope with this and deal with this. And it was interesting because some years later, I met one of the key people who had come to that meeting and who was involved with that decision of closing Lincoln Theological College. And I asked him if he recalled that particular day when he came to see us. And he said, yes, he did. He would never forget it. But he did say something very interesting at the end of it. And he said that he believed now that it was a mistake to have made that decision and to close a college that had a very, very different outlook on ministry and training. And I think that was in part because we were very privileged to train alongside Methodists. Lincoln was a joint theological college. It was a joint Church of England and Methodist theological college. And to highlight how atrociously the Church of England behaved, they made the decision to close Lincoln Theological College, or what they do is they don't close it. They said they were going to withdraw funding from it so it couldn't train ordinands, without any consultation at all to the Methodist Church. They just made the decision without talking to the Methodist Church. So hey ho, 26 years on, here I am in Handley serving you. But one thing, or two things that I've learned from that experience. Firstly, that when things get tough, and as they are now, and difficult, then actually trying to have as positive an upbeat approach to things as possible is really good for the psyche and well-being. And I'll be honest with you, it's not easy. I'm finding ministry at the moment particularly challenging because the sorts of things that I am used to doing and that I know many of my colleagues, lovely colleagues, are used to doing have all but stopped. Yes, we're taking services and we're doing some pastoral visiting, but all of the active mission work and project work that many of us are doing, particularly in my role both as vicar here and as a rural field officer, has been curtailed hugely. And I find myself sitting often in an empty vicarage with sometimes quite an empty diary, contacting other clergy, asking them if they'd be interesting to look at a project or something like that. And of course, that's just not possible at the time being. So it's trying to find blessings where maybe you're not looking for them. So that's the first thing I learnt from the experience at Lincoln Theological College. The second thing is actually a negative thing, and sadly it's something that has been borne out time and time again in my 20 plus years of ministry within the Church of England, which is that it is an organisation that often doesn't think. It doesn't think of the repercussions of the decisions and actions that are often taken at very high level within the Church of England, and how they will affect people's lives on the ground. Not just clergy, but lay people and others as well. And sadly, I think that is a thing that is long overdue change. The Church of England tends to, in a sense, be run by a relatively small group of people that are very, very city and London based. And they're not bad people at all. They've got, their hearts are all in the right place. But in a sense, it's because of their limited experience of what the whole of the Church of England is and represents, that can sometimes have a very, very negative effect on particularly small rural parishes and churches. And sadly, though a lot of good things happen, time and time again over my 20 odd years career, I've sat in meetings and listened to decisions and read about things and just wondered what the thinking was behind that. Anyhow, that is why St Michael's and All Angels is an important day and brings back many happy memories of both first year at Theological College and really first year of married life, living in a very, very beautiful city of Lincoln. Anyhow, just a little bit of Michael and All Angels. This is from Exciting Holiness. Michael, Gabriel and Raphael are the three named biblical angels depicted as the beloved messengers of God. Michael, which means who is like God, is described as protector of Israel and leader of the armies of God, and is perhaps best known as slaying the dragon in the Revelation of John. He is thus regarded as the protector of Christians from the devil, particularly those at the hour of death. A basilica near Rome was dedicated in the 5th century in honour of Michael on the 30th of September. Beginning the celebrations on the eve of that day, the 29th, is now kept in honour of Michael and all angels throughout the Western Church. And the reading that's often read at this feast day is the reading from Revelations chapter 12, verses 7 to 12. War broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. The dragon and his angels fought back, but they were defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. The great dragon was thrown down, the ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven proclaiming, "Now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God, and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our comrades has been thrown down, who accuses them day and night before our God. But they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, for they did not cling to life, even in the face of death. Rejoice then, you heavens, and those who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you with great wrath, because he knows that his time is short." A very, very powerful passage, which firstly reminds us very, very clearly that the battle over evil in the eternal world, in the eternal realm, has been won by the blood of the Lamb, Jesus' self-sacrifice on the cross. But also a warning to us that that evil has been thrown down and still dwells, and in a sense has its power on earth. And we see it daily in action, wreaking havoc, whether it be in huge world events that we see on the news, or everyday selfishness which takes over an individual. But we can rest assured that indeed the battle has been won, and that when all eternity is won, God and the Messiah and all angels and all of us, the saints in light, will dwell with God forever and ever. Amen. So I hope you have a pleasant day today. I'm going to be recording the story of the giant turnip in a minute for the local school for their sort of harvest celebrations and normal admin and such like. It was great to have the harvest festival service down at Mincing Farm on Sunday. Thank you very much, Badger and family, for allowing us to be down there. It was a glorious day, though it was quite chilly with the wind, but a wonderful experience to be able to celebrate harvest on a local farm. This coming Sunday, it's Pentridge and Woodyates Harvest Festival, and that's happening up in a barn at Woodyates Barn, and people are invited to that. Again, the same protocols still apply, as the rules haven't changed. We're allowed to hold this event under local authority guidelines and Church of England guidelines, as it's an act of worship and a charitable event. However, we do have to ensure that a risk assessment is done, and I'll be doing that fully with Richard Ferguson and Mary in the next couple of days. And of course, we'll have to maintain social distancing and COVID rules while we are up there. So just to reiterate again, it's very important if you're coming along to Pentridge Harvest Festival. Of course, you're most welcome. But if you are coming as a family group, that can only be a maximum of 6 people in that group. We will have to social distance. There will be some seating provided, but it might be a good idea to bring your own folding chairs if you wish. We won't be able to sing hymns, but Penwood, the sort of brass, a little brass band there, are going to play music for us, which will be lovely. And it will be a prayer book Holy Communion service, receiving the sacrament in just one kind. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do the wonderful tradition that they have in Pentridge, which is eating cheese with homemade bread and drinking cider, because unfortunately the current COVID regulations mean that we're not really allowed to distribute food in that particular way. But again, if you do want to bring your own flask of tea or coffee or sweet treat or cake to consume after the service in your own little group, then that would be wonderful. Please feel free to do that. I know the Fergusons will be more than happy for people to stay in the barn or just outside for a short while after the service, but what we can't do is sort of all congregate together and chat. So that's this coming Sunday, 10 o'clock, up at Woodyates, in Woodyates Barn there. So I hope that's good. Looking ahead, we're moving into October, and though it's looking like an absolutely glorious day today, yesterday I had a wonderful, it's a sort of bit of a spur of the moment thing, because I managed to find one of these special vouchers online. I don't know if you find these voucher sites, but I found a voucher which gave a really big discount on red funnel ferries to go over to the Isle of Wight. So I decided on day off, it was a sort of very last minute thing, to use this voucher and get myself over to the Isle of Wight. There's 2 people. Kate was at work, unfortunately, so a good friend of mine came along as well. It was a very early start because we had to get an early ferry, and it's all part of the deal. But it was great, and to sort of go around the Isle of Wight and do a little bit of a circuit and some photography was excellent. But we are definitely moving into autumn. You can feel it in the air, though it's wonderfully sunny outside at the moment. Anyhow, I hope you all have a good day and a good week. Let's just finish with the collect for St Michael and all angels, and also thinking about all the lovely people that I spent a year with at Lincoln Theological College back in 1994, 1995, many of whom I'm still friends with, and thinking of them and the shared experience that we had over that academic year. Everlasting God, you have ordained and constituted the ministries of angels and mortals in a wonderful order. Grant that your holy angels always serve you in heaven, so at your command they may help and defend us on earth. Through Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord, who is alive and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. So do take care, folks, and have a good day.